So Morpheus is sitting there with Neo, and they got the leather couches, and they got the trench coats, and they got the water, and they've got the pills, and Morpheus tells Neo, look man, if you take the blue pill, the story ends, and you wake up, and you believe whatever you want to believe. And then he holds out the other pill. You can see it reflected in his shiny metallic looking shades that are super, super round. You can see Neo looking at him in the same reflection. His hand is outstretched. He's got the red pill in the palm of that hand. He says, if you take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. It's beautiful. That conversation is a beautiful conversation. That moment is a beautiful moment. There's so much charge. There's so much in that moment. It's beautiful. So before we continue, I just wanted to acknowledge that there are these special moments, these special conversations. That there can be charge held. There can be something in the air, something in the space. There's a lot of ways to get there. There's a lot of ways to sensitize to it. There's a lot of ways to ignore it too. Even if it's right there on you, all around you, swirling. So, we begin with that. And when I say begin, I mean we begin to run. Because this is a runcast. And I'm trying to remember, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that we are on episode 49? I believe so, because I think 48 was the one where I got cut off. No worries, though. I've learned something. Ooh, have I? Have I learned something? I'm sure it's fine. Well, maybe I forgot to put myself on airplane mode. But if I get a text or a call, I'll know it because there will be a sound, the phone will vibrate, and I will defer myself to begin the episode again, or rather to start up the camera again. And then maybe I'll take that opportunity to go airplane mode. Okay, so we're learning in progress, right? That function is a new function to me. So we've got to learn in stride. We've got to learn one step at a time. That's how it's done. Just like all the things we do. It's a really good position to be in because we get to see ourselves get better every time. Case in point, just knowing to turn all the dials up on all of the forms of volume that are under the media control function in my phone. That's going to allow me to know if, like last episode, it just stops for no reason, recording. There should be a sound. There should be a sound when it happens, and I should be able to pivot. It'll be interesting to observe this happen or not happen. It may be 10 episodes down the line the next time that the camera has stopped functioning thing pops up. I might catch it. I might not. I lost half of the last episode, essentially. I got to the first half an hour. It was about an hour of a run. And I got about 5 seconds into the second episode before it stopped. I don't know exactly what happened. I can tell you one thing. I can tell you that was right around the time that my phone was not giving me messages from a whole bunch of people. So the two might be intertwined. It could have been a glitch. Perhaps one that is in the Matrix. Maybe not. Let's take a right. I think I know what I want to do. I'm thinking a medium run today. I'm not thinking a long run. Not thinking a crazy one. My digestion is agreeable enough. And it's later in the day. So I find I'm amenable to consideration for a middle run. If it turns into a short one, that's okay. I wasn't going to run today. Today and yesterday were going to be rest days, and they have been from the weights. Today, I had important material to go over with a variety of people. And I did that. It took time. It's a lot like planting a garden. I planted some seeds last week. I knew they weren't going to go anywhere. Or at least I got that feeling. Lo and behold, nothing happened over the weekend. Here we are on Tuesday. I start getting calls back from important people in important juxtapositions to my situation in my life. People who I need information from. People who I ask advice from. People who I move forward with. With business, with personal affairs. All kinds of things. It's been a hot week. Well, it's been a hot few days anyway. And it's going to be a hot another few days. We've got a bunch of stuff to do. We've got some blood to give. Or not. We'll see. They headed me off last time and said, wait 6 more days and then you can do the form that you want to do. And I was like, all right, cool. Just all sorts of things. I've got some name tags to hand in to some very important people. I've got some nostalgia to relive. I've got probably a walk or two, maybe a run or two to take. Maybe we'll podcast it in some past, in some areas that relate heavily to my past and where I was at. And I wonder if I can segue that, because what I was going to say was, hey, back in those days, those walks on those lunch breaks and those 10-minute breaks, dreading every step back to where I was working, not because it was a bad environment, but because it wasn't right for me. In that mind, sometimes coming out on top, sometimes not. Sometimes being able to do the reversal and be like, yeah, but better's coming. Yeah, but it's also easy to feel good. Sometimes I would let myself go to that place. Sometimes I would fight my way out of it. I'm a very chaotic person sometimes. I find that sometimes I can go to that place and sometimes it eludes me. I think that's a lot of us. And I've put some work into developing some kind of stability or steadiness, an ability to sort of move predictably through my system. That's not what I was going to talk about, though. A, because I haven't mastered that, and B, because I was going to refer to a different aspect of that. I was going to describe that feeling a bit more. Those walks on those lunch breaks in those old areas, where I'll be returning for the last time soon. Previous employment and neighborhoods around that area that I used to stomp a little bit, clear my mind. The state back then was often, the fact that I was walking was an indication that I needed to walk, because on a lunch break, ain't it better to eat some lunch? But there I was walking. And the feeling that I want to point at, I want you to take your elbows and touch them together in the front. And then I want you to take your knees and touch them together in the front. And then I want you to bring your legs up to your chest. And wrap all your limbs around each other so that you're in a tight little ball. That's where I was. Some days I was able to pry myself free. Other days there was no resistance to the natural expansion. I would look and I'd say, well, this isn't for me forever. I've got options. There's things I can do. Sometimes that came easy. I would have visions and ideas. Other times I would just think, yeah, something's coming. Other times I would think, man, nothing's coming right now. I can't see it. I can't see. And I can't move. Constriction is the name of the feeling. I've lived a very constricted life. I want to take a second to shout out my Tai Chi instructor. His name is Justin Eggert. Eggert, I believe. Because in studying his Tai Chi, I missed a very important lesson, but I might have gotten a better feeling for it if I would have put more of myself in his classes. He set the space up very well to explore this concept of constriction versus opening up and expanding. If I had not allowed myself to obfuscate my basic instincts for the language he was speaking, that I had somehow lucked into the perfect arena to develop my understanding on all levels of what drawing in is and what expanding out is. Man, if I would have just stuck with it a little more, I might have learned or synergized better with the other knowledge bases that I began to assemble in the last few years to come to the place where I am. So thank you, Justin. You set a space. Also, my name is also Justin, so go Justins. Man. He's a Tai Chi instructor. He set a space in the following way. He decided he was going to teach not just one or two styles of Tai Chi. I think he teaches 4, plus a bunch of Kung Fu and some other stuff as well. He was shaping up to experiment with teaching some ancient Chinese wrestling techniques, last I heard. But to go back to the Tai Chi, one of the forms, which happened to be the form he was teaching when I decided I wanted to learn Tai Chi and would actually wake up and do it, happened to be a form known as Wudong style. Wudong style deals a lot with this expansion and contraction. And there's an availability in that space to learn how to move big movements with only little efforts. You spin a little bit here, and 3 limbs away, a big arc happens. You shift your weight a little bit, make a couple of little spirals, and you got a guy lying on his back in front of you. Would have been a good thing to look into. Deeper. I know the form, but I don't have the wisdom of the form. I don't have the 10,000 hours, Good hours. Still, there was something about the drawing in, expanding out thing. It wasn't entirely lost on me. I do feel it synergizing to an extent with my limited knowledge base therein, with brackets, with other practices that I'm employing now to discover about myself. What are the words in this conversation? What are the exchanges? What's the commerce? What are the stakes? What are the value inputs? How do I become proficient in this language, this systemic language, which is a small amount words and a very large amount cascading oceans of data that can only be felt? It can be sloppily translated. Sometimes a little. Great artists and poets can do it. But as for me, okay, we're still recording. Good. That's another thing I'm doing. I'm checking more often. Let's go to the vineyard. Let's go to the vineyard for a second and hang out. So, I'm thinking these thoughts. Because And I know the internet likes to take things away from people, as much as it is just one more face of the abundance of the universe. I believe that. The internet also is quite ready to exercise its capacities as a face of what is human in terms of our capacity to take from each other. Any meme or any resource, any knowledge, any teaching, any connection that human beings can establish can, given time and the endless wiles of change and potential, be corrupted. That is possible. So people are a little wary around the term red pill now. There was a guy, one of Lex Friedman's friends, Michael Malice, who had a book recently. He put it out called The White Pill, which is just which is the same kind of conversation that Morpheus had with Neo. Only instead of there being a focus on pulling the veil from somebody else's eyes, there was more an emphasis on, well, some veils here are good, some veils there are bad, and sometimes you gotta veil up and sometimes you gotta unveil. Whatever it is, let's be in it with the right intent. And if I've mischaracterized his book, I haven't read it, so that's something that I run quite a sizable risk of doing. At the same time, I think the essence of it is honored in this statement. I think so. I think so. But, to go back to Morpheus, I'm not really distinguishing between the red and the white pill. I'm just not taking the blue one. Staying in Wonderland and seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes. What's the rabbit hole? It depends. Just like everything else does. It doesn't have to mean anything profound, conspiratorial. There's rabbit holes everywhere. Some lead very short distances. Others are actually just walls once you get close enough. Rabbit holes lead to other rabbit holes. Hello, Vineyard. I'm walking away from a story. A series of stories regarding conventional employment, which is the right answer for many people. And it can be a solid place to go, if not ideal, for maybe 1,000 times more people. I don't know. These are abstract, completely not to be taken seriously proportions. I don't know how many people it is the best life to work for yay long and retire in yay way. In this other way, I found myself stretching quite a bit. Today was a stretchy day. And on this stretchy day, I was just coming off of some conversations, sort of hanging in there for some other ones that weren't going to happen that I didn't know, which is fine. Everything in time. Well, I found myself thinking, I don't just want to sit in my room the rest of the day, and I also don't want to deliver anything today. So, let's compromise and just get moving somehow. Because that's the one thing I hadn't done today at all, was move my body. So I thought, okay, I'll fold my clothes. So I did. I'm not a great ranger roller, but I do know how to do it. So I ranger rolled my clothing. And it took forever, like it always does. Hi, guys. Hey, Peppy. And when, I started setting it up and assorting things into proper piles and going from inside out to right side in and shirts with shirts, undies with undies and all that. And, going a bit of a weird way today, aren't we? And, in that activity, I found myself submersed in a podcast, as I often do. I was listening to Hickson Gracie, a jiu-jitsu master. He was talking to Jocko Willink, a Navy SEALs commando master. And the mutual respect hung like humidity in the air. There was a lot of love in that room, which is cool. Really cool to see that. And I remember, this was only a little while ago, Hickson has a pretty heavy accent. Doesn't get all his words right. He's from South America and Brazil, I want to say. So I can only assume his native language is Portuguese. And he speaks with affectations that reminded me of my Middle American recent ancestors. He sounded a bit like he could have been one of my great grandpas or great uncles. And it was soothing and it was comforting. Because here's a guy who strangles people for a living and teaches people to do it, is part of a clan that teaches people to do it. His whole family. Everybody learns how to do this. The jiu-jitsu thing. And here this guy is just talking about the same stuff that I talk about. Being a person. Finding limitations. Again, being proud of yourself today. Something rendering you humble the next day. Picking yourself up. Finding progress. He had a story to tell. And arcs of life. Sometimes I tell of my life. It was very nice to listen to these masters. These master warriors. Just talk about battle and coming up in different countries and the learning about self. And there was a fair bit about the employment of different modalities to hone an extra dimension to the edge of the blade for your main game. Hickson had a lot to say about yoga and breathwork, transcendental meditation, and he had a lot to say about, or at least some to say about, wrestling and judo and other stuff. He knew a lot of history. And I don't know, it's just a very good conversation, but I was thinking about that. Because what's the story? What's the blue pill? Blue pill is there is no matrix. I live my life just the way that I want to every day and I'm perfectly fine. And I quietly die a death of spiritual starvation. And I probably take a few others with me in my vacuous cesspool, sassy ways. There's a lot of ways to be. I saw myself going down that road many times. But for every time that I see it, it wants to jump in front of my face again and say, hey, remember you listening to these master warriors? That you're just a fucking ass? And I'm like, oh no, that's right. Why do I try? Why get up in the morning? Why do my best to fold my clothes like I'm doing right now? Why run like I am actually right now? Well, it helped to hear somebody struggling and getting over it and talking about it and sharing it while I'm living it over here. I mean, after all, I've been busy today trying to red pill up, trying to adapt into this different, stranger, bigger world. And it left me restless. And it left me, because in this world there's a recognition that judgment and blame aren't really going to help you the same way as acceptance, owning things, developing a relationship with your intentions, moving. And yeah, so I'm in this vulnerable state. I'm in a vulnerable state. Could go either way. There's no easy answers today. Half the conversations I was hoping happened, or would happen, didn't happen the way that I wanted them to. In fact, none of them did. So in fact, it's just like last week. And then the blue pill comes in. It's like, oh yeah, you know why? That's because the forces in the world that want you to be a good little boy are too strong. You must be what the strongest forces around you tell you must be, which is the shadow of a great truth. The truth being, yeah, that's 100%. But what are the great forces? They're not to be misidentified. That does them a dishonor. Of course, they're also gentle and forgiving at the end of the day. Little blue folk won't tell you that. They're willing to drop it as soon as you are. The sun is willing to drop you being so self-obsessed and worrisome as soon as you are. The sun is quite happy if you misname it. It's quite happy if it launches a coronal mass ejection and all life ends on our planet. It's the sun. It tells us what we can do and what we can be. To a pretty great extent. We're dead in 8 minutes if that thing goes out. Maybe 9. That'd be a wild few minutes, wouldn't it? Who acts the hero and who acts the fool in the last 8 minutes? I'm a little from column A and a little from column B myself. I don't know your persuasion. Oh, Jesus Christ. You're kidding me. You're kidding me. Okay, all right. If you're sure. It appears that my instinct has pulled me like a magnet to true north, and true north was not where I thought true north was. I thought I was going to take a right, but it looks like we're going left. Peachy. That's fine. Let's check the camera. Still going. Right. Yes, 28 minutes. 28 minutes, not bad, huh? Here's a guy on a podcast in Hickson Gracie talking to Jocko. And Hickson is saying, he's talking about breathing and emotional control, emotional downregulation, and discernment. When sometimes you gotta emotionally downregulate, other times you gotta explode on the mat in clinch moments in life too. Jocko said that as he became a master in jiu-jitsu, I don't know if he calls himself a master, I don't think that he does, but as he became better in jiu-jitsu, the thing that he noticed was that jiu-jitsu lessons were aiding him everywhere. And Hickson was saying the same thing. Just like Miyamoto's Just like Musashi's sword fighting quote, which I will not repeat. That's on my grand and noble audience to remember this time. I'm not going to say it every time. What I will do is continue on down the road. Anyway. So I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm not a sword fighter. So the first thing that the blue pill tells me almost seductively when these guys are talking about their roads to their lives, and I notice how their lives just have them in battle all the time, I think to myself, compare. Oh yeah, when's the last time I had to move critically in a moment of physical danger? Haven't done that too many times in my life. And then I think to myself, oh yeah, that's the opening to a zillion other stories that want to enmesh me in the doldrums and write off my better nature, my potential, what abilities I do have, what interests I do have. You can't because you didn't already start. You can't because these people are just built different. You can't because you don't. You can't because you don't is a big one. I can't be good at Tai Chi because I don't practice every day. That's not the way that the blue pill talks it. Blue pill says, well then stop practicing. Don't worry about it. Take a load off. But red pill self is like, well yeah, that's always going to be a factor. But it's not the only one. We are going to take this left. Yeah. I don't want to end up in the next city now, do I? That's where that road went. In short order, I might add. Oh, it smells like blackberries. One day I kind of want to see if it's possible to make wine out of blackberries.